Namaskar, Jai Shri Krishna. Enjoining text 15 and text 16 of chapter 5, Karma-Yoga, Action in Krishna's Consciousness of Srimad Bhagavad-gita. Text 15. Na datte kasyachit papam na chaiva sukrutam vibhuha ajnanena vrittam jnanam tena muhayanti janatvaha. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. The Sanskrit word Vibhuha means the Supreme Lord, who is full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation. He is satisfied in himself, undisturbed by sinful or pious activities. He does not create a particular situation for any living entity, but the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby his chain of actions and reactions begin. The living entity is by superior nature full of knowledge. Nevertheless, he is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. The Lord is omnipotent, but the living entity is not. The Lord is Vibhuva or omniscient, but the living entity is Anu or atomic. Because he is a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord. And so when the living entity is bewildered in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires, but the Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation which may be desired. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the living entity identifies himself with the circumstantial material body and becomes situated to the temporary misery and happiness of life. The Lord is the constant companion of the living entity as Paramatma or the super soul, and therefore he can understand the desires of the individual soul as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it. Desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. The Lord fulfills his desire as he deserves. Man proposes and God disposes. The individual is not therefore omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. The Lord, however, can fulfill all desires, and the Lord, being neutral to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minute independent living entities. When, however, one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and be eternally happy. The Vedic hymns therefore declare, Isa uhi aiva sadhu karma karyati tama yama ibhyo lokebhya उन्निनी सते ईसाउ एव साधु कर्म करयति यम अधो निनी सते. The Lord engages the living entity in pious activities so that he may be elevated. The Lord engages him in impious activities so that he may go to hell. Kaushitaki Upanishad 3.8. अजनो जानतुर अनिसो अयम आत्मनः सुख दुःखायोः ईश्वर प्रेरितो गच्छेत स्वर्गम वास्व अभ्रम ऐवच. The living entity is completely dependent in his distress and happiness. By the will of the Supreme, he can go to heaven or hell as a cloud is driven by the air. Therefore, the embodied soul, by his immemorial desire to avoid Krishna's consciousness, causes his own bewilderment. Consequently, although he is constitutionally eternal, blissful, and cognizant, due to the littleness of his existence, he forgets his constitutional position of service to the Lord and is thus entrapped by nescience and under the spell of ignorance. The living entity claims that the Lord is responsible for his conditional existence. The Vedanta Sutras 2.1.34 also confirm this. Vai samya nair gruhane na sapek satvat tatha hi darshayati. The Lord neither hates nor likes anyone, though he appears to. Text 16. Jnanena tu तदज्ञानं येषाम नाशित मात्मनः तेषामादि त्यवज ज्ञानम prakashayati tatparam. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then everything is revealed by his knowledge, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Those who have forgotten Krishna must certainly be bewildered. But those who are in Krishna's consciousness are not bewildered at all. It is stated in the Bhagavad-gita, Sarvam Jnana Plavena Jnana Agniha Sarva Karmani and Nahi Jnanena Sadrusham. Knowledge is always highly esteemed. And what is that knowledge? Perfect knowledge is achieved when one surrenders unto Krishna. As is said in the 7th chapter 19th verse, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mama Prapadyate. After passing through many births, when one perfect in knowledge surrenders unto Krishna, or when one attains Krishna's consciousness, then everything is revealed to him, as everything is revealed by the sun in the daytime. The living entity is bewildered in so many ways. For instance, when he unceremoniously thinks himself God, he actually falls into the last snare of nescience. If a living entity is God, then how can he become bewildered by nescience? Does God become bewildered by nescience? If so, then nescience or Satan is greater than God. Real knowledge can be obtained from a person who is in perfect Krishna's consciousness. Therefore, one has to seek out such a bona fide spiritual master and under him learn what Krishna's consciousness is, and for Krishna's consciousness will certainly drive away all nescience as the sun drives away darkness. Even though a person may be in full knowledge that he is not this body but is transcendental to the body, he still may not be able to discriminate between the soul and the super soul. However, he can know everything well if he cares to take shelter of the perfect bona fide Krishna's conscious spiritual master. One can know God and one's relationship with God only when one actually meets a representative of God. A representative of God never claims that he is God, although he is paid all the respect ordinarily paid to God because he has knowledge of God. One has to learn the distinction between God and the living entity. Lord Sri Krishna therefore stated in the 2nd chapter 2.12 that every living being is individual and that the Lord also is individual. They were all individuals in the past, they are individuals at present, and they will continue to be individuals in the future even after liberation. At night we see everything as one in the darkness. But in day, when the sun is up, we see everything in its real identity. Identity with individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge. Thank you.